It might finally be time to give Max Richter's On the Nature of Daylight a break.
There's a moment near the end of Chloe Zhao's visually breathtaking film Hamnet that hits with almost unbearable emotional weight. William Shakespeare, played against the melancholy backdrop of personal loss, stages the first performance of Hamlet. His wife, Agnes, played by Jessie Buckley, sits among the audience. She's never seen her husband's alter ego, the bard, at work, and when she realizes he is named the protagonist after their late son, her reaction isn't anger or betrayal, but something much deeper. What begins as shock transforms into a powerful recognition of love, creativity, and vulnerability, art as a vessel for healing. But here's where it gets controversial. Zhao underscores the moment with Richter's On the Nature of Daylight, and suddenly tears are unavoidable. It's a breathtaking artistic choice and also a sign that this piece may have reached its emotional limit. Richter himself composed Hamnet's score, yet for its finale, he dipped back into his acclaimed 2004 album The Blue Notebooks. That record, once hailed by The Guardian as one of the century's finest classical works, was intended as Richter's response to the Iraq War, a musical protest against the senselessness of violence. In his own words, it was a meditation not only on war's destruction but also on the quieter forms of cruelty people encounter every day. On the Nature of Daylight, the album's second track, quickly became his signature, an exercise in restraint and emotional precision. Music critic Zoe Sonez once noted how the piece creates a space for contemplation rather than demanding attention. You don't need to understand music theory to grasp it, its power lies in the way it wordlessly evokes sorrow and tenderness at once. No wonder filmmakers have kept turning to it whenever they need to summon goosebumps and tears.
Hollywood caught on fast.
Martin Scorsese used it to haunting effect in Shutter Island, layering its melancholy above psychological chaos.
A few years later, it appeared in Disconnect, enveloping the film's critique of digital alienation in an elegiac tone.
Denis Villeneuve's Arrival famously turned it into an emotional cornerstone, to the extent that the film's composer, Johan Johansson, was disqualified from Oscar consideration because the piece wasn't original to the score. For many, Arrival officially enshrined Richter's composition as the music for grief with hope.
Yet Hamnet seems to have closed that chapter.
Zhao and Richter combined their artistic sensibilities so perfectly that any reappearance of this track might now feel redundant, like repeating a phrase whose meaning has already been mastered. This isn't to say the moment in Hamnet is manipulative, far from it. It's sincere, layered, and earned through performance and story. Jessie Buckley's acting grounds the scene in humanity, while Richter's achingly familiar strings magnify emotion without overpowering it. Still, one can't help feeling that Zhao could have achieved the same catharsis even in silence.
Filmmakers reuse emotional tropes for a reason.
Familiar elements, a swelling monologue, a last-minute airport chase, a motivational montage function as shortcuts to convey universal feelings.
The same logic applies to music.
Vietnam War films keep turning to Creedence Clearwater Revival's Fortunate Son not only because of Forrest Gump or Apocalypse Now, but because it's become synonymous with rebellion and disillusionment.
But familiarity eventually dulls emotional force.
Certain songs, Queen's We Are the Champions, Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On, Sigur Rós Hapapala, are now nearly impossible to use sincerely without evoking parody.
Could Richter's masterpiece be heading for the same fate? It seems likely.
Even before Hamnet, observers were already complaining that On the Nature of Daylight had turned into filmmaking's emotional cheat code. Since 2020, critics have pointed out its overuse in everything from TV dramas like 911 and Castle Rock to the Willem Dafoe adventure Togo and the British soap EastEnders.
In each instance, the track appeared at moments designed to trigger elevated sadness, as if emotion could simply be inserted via soundtrack.
The dissonance between Richter's haunting subtlety and the sometimes clumsy storytelling it accompanied raised doubts about whether the piece was being misunderstood entirely. Then came HBO's The Last of Us episode Long, Long Time. Its heartbreaking depiction of Bill and Frank's love story used On the Nature of Daylight as a requiem for hope amid ruin, cementing its role as the universal anthem for bittersweet endings. In each story, Arrival, Hamnet, The Last of Us, the song straddles sorrow and serenity, mourning and acceptance.
That dual emotionality is its genius.
But maybe that's also the problem. Once a single piece of music becomes the default vessel for grief and grace, it risks becoming emotionally hollow. So here's the uncomfortable truth: Hamnet might have finally retired the piece, at least in spirit. The film's layered finale, where art, love, and pain merge, defines what On the Nature of Daylight can do at its best. Any future use risks sounding derivative, even exploitative. From now on, it's hard to imagine any director employing it without inviting comparison, or worse, mockery. Richter's composition will always hold a place in screen history, much like the 1812 overture or Also sprach Zarathustra.
But maybe it's time to let it rest, at least for a while.
The music has earned reverence, not repetition. It deserves to remain a testament to how sound can connect grief with transcendence, not a cinematic crutch for easy tears. After Hamnet, it no longer feels like an emotional breakthrough, it feels like déjà vu.
What do you think? Has On the Nature of Daylight become a cinematic cliché, or does its universality still justify its use in storytelling?